Am I the butthole for refusing to apologize for what I said at Christmas and ruining Nye? My so and children travel to my so's home state for Christmas and New Year's. His family's Christmas including most of his extended family, and I love and get along with most of them. He does have a cousin that I don't get along with. She was very hostile to me the first time we met and things never got better from there. She's the girl cousin that hangs out with only the guys because the girls in her family are just too much drama. She doesn't have a good relationship with most of her female in-laws. We'll call her Bianca. Bianca recently got engaged and brought her fiancé to the party. For some freaking reason they thought it would be appropriate for him to guess everyone's weight. Bianca says he's great at it and everyone always loves his party trick. I doubt it, but okay. Bianca insists he starts with me. An important thing to mention is that I'm Polynesian. Our body composition isn't the same. When I was in high school I was always 15 to 20 pounds heavier than my female classmates even though I didn't look heavier. He guessed that I was 165 pounds, I said no. He guessed 160, I said no. He guessed 155, I said no. He called me a liar, I told him I'm 180 pounds. He doubled down on calling me a liar. I confirmed that I am indeed 180 pounds. My in-laws were surprised and saying I looked very good for my weight. So of course Bianca started being fake nice and said things like it's okay, not everyone can shed that baby weight like me. Don't feel bad and things like that. I told her I didn't feel bad, your fiancé thought I weighed way less than I do, so I feel great. She started saying how she always has time to treat her body right and most moms are just lazy and make excuses about not having enough time. I was getting fed up and said, well Bianca, we just prioritize things differently. You prioritize your looks and I prioritize my work and having full custody of my kids. Bianca lost custody of her kids 2 months ago because she flew out of the country to chase her fiancé and left her kids with a friend for 3 weeks. Bianca and her mother yelled at me for being classless and demanded I leave. My husband and his mother said that I would not be leaving as it's her house and that's where we were staying for the visit. Bianca and her parents and siblings left and it was very awkward after that. They and a few others think I crossed a line with bringing up her children and said they won't attend the Nye party tonight if I'm still here. They said the holidays are about family being together and bringing up how she doesn't have her kids was heartless. I really like most of my in-laws and think I should apologize, but I'm only willing to do so if I was actually in the wrong. My husband thinks I shouldn't apologize but my Sil thinks I should. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Bianca played mean girl games and got slapped for it. Bold of her to call you classless when the whole thing started because she couldn't stop insulting you for 5 seconds. I'd say enjoy your butthole-free holiday evening. Not the butthole question, do people on the receiving end of bully have to apologize to the perpetrators? Answer, no. Lol at anybody who thinks taking pot shots at your weight was perfectly fine but noting that she lost custody of her children is not. Not the butthole, and don't hang out with anybody who loses custody of their kids. They are bad news. Not the butthole. Not only did this cousin shed her baby weight, she shed her kids entirely. She's not heard about the kids. She's pissed because you deflated her artificially inflated ego, which she uses to justify bullying people. It was appropriate social feedback. You probably should have refused to play the weight game, but I assume you were trying not to be the party pooper. Your husband and Mill backed you in the moment about not leaving, but do they want you to apologize? If they do, it puts you in a tough situation. In that case you could offer to apologize if she apologizes first for her insulting comments, unless it's a matter of principle. Am I the butthole for silently getting up and walking out of the restaurant during night dinner after I was told to pay for everyone at the table, my in-laws? I, 32 female, recently inherited a good amount of money from my mom. I keep the money in a separate account as I still haven't decided what to do with it and I didn't want it to go to waste. I noticed my husband constantly bringing up the inheritance money and making countless suggestions as to how I should spend it. Another thing is that he expects me pay for nearly everything the past couple of weeks. For Nye, my husband and I met up with his family at a restaurant to celebrate. It was going fine until I found out that I was expected to pay for everyone at the table. My husband's mom joked about paying for dinner out of my inheritance pocket, which made me livid, but I showed no reaction. Just silently paid for my own food/drinks. Then got up and made my way out of the restaurant. They were shouting after me like a crowd and my husband tried to get me to come back but I drove home. He got back at 3 a.m. yelling at me saying I was pathetic to get up and walk out on him and his family after they relied on me to pay for their food and thought I was gracious enough to do it, but they were wrong. He said I humiliated him and family and that what I did was an attempt to get back at them for not being able to help mom when she was sick. Not true is all I'm gonna say. He is mad and is saying that I caused a huge rift between his family and me when it wouldn't have hurt me to pay for the celebratory dinner. Am I the butthole? So let me get this straight. Your mother died after an illness and the thing your in-laws take from this is great, now she can pay for everything. Yeah, not the butthole. Not the butthole. But please see a lawyer ASAP. After this trick, your husband is likely to divorce you to go after your inheritance. Make sure your affairs are legally airtight so he can't touch it. Not the butthole. No one ever has the right to expect someone else to pick up the tab, especially if it wasn't agreed to up front. This causes two problems. 1. Let's say for argument's sake that you wanted a treat. But their expectation/demand of you treating literally robs you of the joy of picking up the tab. No likes being forced. 2. Say you begrudgingly just paid. Now you're setting a precedent of constantly being used, and they will expect you to be the family piggy bank. Your inheritance is no one's business. You don't owe anyone anything. Your husband and in-laws are shameful. Am I the butthole for not defending my wife and siding with my parents and sister? I, 32 male, have been married to my wife, 31 female, for 1 year. I have a younger sister, 29 female. Between the age of 22 and 26, my sister had an opioid addiction. However, she was able to recover and is clean now for 3 years. We were at my parents' house 2 days ago. We were watching a show where the parents of a drug-addicted character were trying to help him recover, and it was causing a lot of pain etc. to everyone involved. My wife said the family of these junkies should stop trying to help them. They waste a lot of effort and resources, and at the end they will probably die from an overdose. I could tell the look on my sister completely changed, and she told my wife, "You clearly have no clue what you are talking about. I was addicted, and if my family had abandoned me I wouldn't have been able to recover." My wife then said, "You are clearly an exception. Junkies will always be junkies. I mean, right now you are doing fine, but if things get tough in your life in the future there will always be a chance you get back to your old habits." My mom intervened and basically told my wife to get the F out of her house. My wife then asked me if I'm going to say something. I told her no, because what you said is completely effed up and insensitive. I apologized to my family and we left. On our way home, my wife said that she was just expressing her opinion and she couldn't believe I belittled her like that in front of my family. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Quite a hole your wife dug herself in with your family. Be difficult to get out of it. I have a feeling this story isn't over. Not the butthole. Your wife is in butthole and more. I'd be shaken to find out a loved one had an attitude like that about addiction. That is horrible. Not the butthole. If there are many other red flags, you may need to rethink this. I can't believe you belittled me. You did a great job of completely embarrassing yourself and disrespecting my sister. I'm only going to have your back if you're not in butthole. Am I the butthole for only taking one of my kids shopping? I was away from December 26th until this morning taking care of some family business. I couldn't take my wife and kids, 16, 14, 11, 10, but I called every day. My oldest daughter was the only one that called me for something other than to tell me what she wants. I always bring presents when I travel without the kids, and she went with my wife to pick me up from the airport. The airport is around an hour and a half from my house, and we stopped at a mall on the way home to get something to eat. While we were there, my daughter asked if we could go to some stores and see if they had some things that she wanted but didn't get for Christmas. We went to a few different stores and I ended up buying her whatever she wanted because she was the only one that came to pick me up, and is interested in spending time with me without expecting something in return. My wife didn't love that I was spending so much on her, but she didn't say anything about it. When we got back to the house, my other kids saw that my oldest had shopping bags on top of the present that I bought for her while I was away. They asked why, and I said we stopped and went shopping on the way home. They asked what I got them, and I said nothing because they weren't there. They got upset and started saying we didn't know we would have gone shopping, and I said it wasn't planned, but they would have gotten to go if they had bothered to show up. They still think this is unfair, and my wife agrees with them, so I wanted to know if I was the butthole. I don't think it's fair or right to put the same expectations on 10-year-old that you put on a 16-year-old. So, I think I have to go with you're the butthole. You're the butthole. Singling one child out like this is bound to create resentment and conflict, and creating division in your household is never a good move, especially when your wife will also have to deal with the fallout. Also, I wonder if you generally favor your oldest daughter and that's why she called you and came to pick you up? If that's a case, then this is kind of a circular argument, because of course the favored child will have more motivation and reason to show you affection. You're the butthole. Do your own kids have to buy your love? Do you expect young kids to care about your day? Kids are naturally selfish and needy. They don't know any other way to be, so of course they were asking for stuff. I'm sure they ask for stuff when you're home too. Otherwise they're thinking about what they're doing or wanting. It's life. You should make it up to them. Edit. An hour and a half drive each way is a long time for a young kid to deal with being in a car. You can't expect them to want to do that, and it's very unfair to judge them for that. You're the butthole. Getting your daughter something because she came is probably a teaching moment for your other kids. Getting your daughter bags of things is crossing a line. If you are unhappy with the way your kids are treating you, or how they are not choosing to spend time with you, I would sit down and have an age-appropriate conversation with them. It's a good chance to model adult behavior and not spitefulness. And probably have a good bit of introspection in these conversations about whether your behavior is contributing to your current relationships. Am I the butthole? Mill is using wife's credit card and I'm upset. My wife has a long history of not being great with money, so after clearing lots of debt on her credit cards we agreed that she would no longer use her credit card so we didn't fall down the same rabbit hole again. My Mill is also terrible with money and is unable to get further credit in her name due to this. Us and my Bill lent her £2,500 each last year to clear debt to avoid huge interest from payday loans. I was looking for something on my wife's phone yesterday and noticed an email for a credit card statement. I asked my wife about it and she became very defensive and said it was only £100 on there and it would be paid off by the end of the month. I was naturally upset since we worked so hard to pay off all her previous balance on the card and agreed that she would no longer use the credit card. After arguing back and forth about it, the truth ended up being my Mill had been using the credit card and there was nearly £3,000 on the credit card. Apparently Mill is paying £500 a month back to my wife to clear the balance, which I don't believe. I asked my wife to show me my Mill paying the £500 each month, to which she refused and said it was none of my business, it is between her and her mum. Am I the butthole for being furious about this? My wife feels I'm interfering and it shouldn't matter if Mill is paying back the money, no proof. I feel I've been lied to and we haven't made a joint decision on this and it's likeliest that we'll have to end up paying it back. Not the butthole. Cancel any credit card that you co-sign on or remove yourself. Lock down your credit so no one can go behind your back. I, personally, would institute separate finances. That way she can't use your income or the joint assets to cover her mother. She is draining the family assets to prop up her mother who needs therapy, not money. Edit, leave this with her to pay back alone. Not the butthole, but it's time to start playing hardball, dude. Your wife needs to have even less financial freedom. She has repeatedly proven she cannot be trusted with money on a number of levels. She should no longer have a credit card. Get her a debit for essentials and emergencies. I also think you need to do everything possible to separate your own money, accounts, credit, assets, etc. from hers. If, maybe when, she fricks this all up, you don't want to be on the hook. At some point, her financial frick-ups becomes your own frick-ups. The next time she does this, you can't claim to be blindsided. You'd just be enabling it by giving her all the runway she needs to make idiotic decisions. Not the butthole. It's not that hard to share proof of her mother paying her back monthly, but since she refuses, she's obviously lying. You guys should have separate bank accounts plus not share credit cards and just let her fall into debt and not help her anymore with her finances. Financial problems are the #1 cause of divorce. Your wife needs a reality check because she is allowing her mother to financially abuse both of you. Not the butthole. Am I the butthole for saying no to alcohol? I, 28 female, have been dating my girlfriend, 24 female, for a year and a half now. This year, we were invited to her parents' house for dinner and her whole extended family was going to be there as well. She was excited and said it would be the perfect time to introduce me to her family. At her parents' house, everything was going great. I even became friends with her grandfather over playing chess and backgammon. I'm quite good at them both. And honestly, it was going better than I thought was possible. Now I don't drink. I don't smoke. I never have and probably never will. I don't have anything against alcohol, and we do have alcohol over at our house because my GF needs a glass of wine sometimes. She was into drinking and partying before. I just don't want to be the one drinking. Mostly because it never got to me. My GF's older brother, 29 male, turned out to be a real drinker. He kept offering me a drink the whole time we were there with different excuses like a toast, dinner, as a complimentary to food, to get the party started, etc. I politely said I didn't drink every single time. During dinner, where wine was being served, he offered to pour me a glass of wine and I refused once again. This time, in front of everybody, he asked me what my problem with alcohol was, if I was a recovering addict or super religious or what my deal was. I said I preferred not to drink and smoke. That they both can have consequences in one's long-term health, and I simply never really got into it. He said I was being a major buzzkill, that he had gotten tired of trying to make me feel welcome, and that I should have just accepted the drink and let go. My girlfriend was going to go ballistic on him. I saw her eyes and boy was she mad, but I took control of the whole situation and said I already felt quite welcome and that everyone had been absolutely lovely. I also said I didn't need to drink to feel that. After dinner, I was going up in our room to get the gifts we had brought and I ran into him again. He said I was not better than anyone by practicing my abstinence from alcohol, that I was boring, and a terrible woman who had made his sister's life a boring hell. Did I do something wrong by not accepting his attempts? And it sounded like her brother isn't ready to accept that his own relationship with alcohol may be unhealthy. Not the butthole should have let your GF explode. Sometimes you need to let family deal with family. Am I the butthole for not falling for my mom's guilt trip? My mom, 51 female, and my brother, 25 male, are currently visiting me, 23 female, for the holiday season, December 24 Jan 2. They both live in Colorado, though we're all from Indiana. They came back to Indiana, instead of me flying out there. BC they can afford it more and I didn't really want to take off work to go out there. The problem arises because they expect to spend an obnoxious amount of time with me while they're here, but I don't want to break the routine I have going to spend all this extra time with people, even family. Here's what a typical day looks like while they're here. Weekday. 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Mom and bro work from home in my apartment. I'm out of the apt, mostly at work, sometimes doing whatever with friends. 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. I do a few family activities with mom and bro, but have a cutoff at midnight so I can chill with friends on Discord afterward and wind down. 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. Play League of Legends and chat with friends. Weekend. 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Spend some alone time with mom. 5 p.m. Hard cutoff BC I have plans with friends to go to a party. 5 p.m. next day, mom and bro stay in my apartment while I hang out with friends. They're big on open communication so we sat down and talked about our feelings. The whole conversation felt like a bit of a guilt trip. Mom expressed she's feeling like I don't value them or their time very highly, since I'm usually out of the house or heading to my room at the end of the night while they're visiting, after they spent thousands of dollars and traveled thousands of miles to get here, especially after I didn't want to travel to them. They complain that they only get a few hours with me per night, which to me seems like a lot, and that the whole time I'm rushing them through the activities we're doing to be able to go to my room faster. This isn't true. I remind them politely every so often of our time constraint so we can get cookie decorating / movie / whatever done in time. The only time this actually mattered was when I had to stop halfway through watching a Christmas movie so I could go to my room, but we finished it the next night. No big deal. Mom also said that I only have this routine while they're here and would otherwise be breaking it to see friends or do whatever, which might be true but honestly that's what keeps me sane. In total I spend about 4 hours with them per day, which is a lot, and my hard cutoffs might be harsh, but I need them to have some me time. Am I the butthole for refusing to give in and spend every second of my free time with family? Edit. Since people are asking, I did invite them to stay with me, but only because we discussed who should visit whom for Christmas and I told them I couldn't take off work to fly to them. It would be easier for them to come here since they WFH. Who spends that much time gaming and out with friends when their family is visiting? That's incredibly rude of you. I don't want to break the routine I have going to spend all this extra time with people, even family. This isn't how family visits work. You don't get to keep your routine when people spend thousands to visit you. If you don't want your family visiting, just tell them that, but this is straight up disrespectfully wasting their time. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. You are asking a loaded question at the end of your post. Ya little you time is good. Your ratio is 13 hours of you time to 4 hours with them. It wasn't a guilt trip, it was a sincere statement. The fact that you view any negative statement as a guilt trip says a lot more about who you are as a person. Adjust your behaviors before you alienate your family. It sounds like you have a decent mom. You're the butthole. It'd be one thing if you saw them all the time but they took off work to travel to you and you're blowing them off for people you see every day. You're the butthole. You're the host. You don't have to entertain them every minute, but you can't expect to do all your normal activities when you have guests. At minimum, your guests join you and your friends. Am I the butthole if I don't want to buy my sil any kind of gifts in the future? I, 28 female, am married to my husband, 32 male, for 3 years and his family are very close. They're all lovely people and we go visit them over the holidays, Christmas, Easter etc., every year. His parents are relatively well off and will spend significant amounts on gifts for each of the children, $500 plus. I know that may not be a large amount to some people here but I was always taught that it was the thought that matters. We're also not in high-earning jobs so I thought that $500 was a little insane. This year, I bought his sister a gift around $80. It was a well-thought-out package with items from Sephora that I thought she might like, and the parents I choose to give a little more, $150-ish each, as they're always gifting me nice things. A thing to note is that my sil, 24 female, doesn't have a job and is still studying so she never gets me anything, not even a small gesture. Here's where the drama occurred. After opening her gift, Sil just smiled and said, "Thanks." The next day after Christmas, I noticed the items I gave her lying on the common area in the dining room counter. I was a bit upset that she didn't put them away, when we all went to bed after that night. I casually asked if she forgot them on the counter and she replied flat, "Oh yeah, maybe. I'll put it away later." She didn't put it away and it's still there after 3 days. I feel like my gift wasn't appreciated and I asked my husband if I was being unreasonable. He said it's probably because I didn't get the gift she wanted in the first place. It was something like $250, and that since I gave her the gift, she can do whatever she wants with it. I said I will just not get her anything in the future because I don't feel like she deserves them if she can't appreciate the small things. He called me the for reacting this way. Not the butthole. Aside from what you feel is her gratitude, or lack thereof, the fact is, you're not really required to get anybody gifts. Not to mention that she has never bought you anything, so why would you continue to gift her? I would just say if anybody says anything, oh, she's never given me a gift, so I thought that she and I weren't exchanging gifts. But I'm petty like that. Honestly, everybody sucks here. She is undoubtedly acting like an for being ungrateful. I feel like that goes without saying. But you can't control how people react to your gifts. Even if you had bought something worth $250, it could have been the wrong shade, or wrong brand, or whatever, and she might have still reacted in the same bratty way. You throwing a tantrum and showing her up next Christmas by not getting her a gift will not make the situation better. It won't teach her a lesson. If anything, it will make the mostly happy relationship you have with your hubby's side of the family significantly worse. Who are they going to side with? You? Nope. Pick a budget to suit you, stick to it, and don't be ashamed of it. From the time you are done wrapping the gift, wash your hands of it. If they like it, amazing. If they don't, who cares? Don't cause a family drama over one bratty reaction. Be the better person. I'm honestly not sure what to say about this because while you don't owe anybody in the world a present, nothing in the post implies that Sil is acting spoiled or entitled to anything. She didn't even ask OP how much she spent on the gift, no rude snarky comments, she even thanked OP. OP states in the post the gift she got Sil was something I thought she might like, so OP might have bought stuff that is useless/unwanted in the first place by Sil. Op's husband is assuming the reason his sister left the gift out. And there's a reason you don't assume anything. Only thing I can see that Sil is guilty of is not putting the stuff away in the time frame that OP has decided is appropriate. Typing this out I've actually decided OP you're the butthole. You knew the gift you were buying was something you thought she might like. That means when buying the gift, you took the risk of it being a complete and total flop. She doesn't like the present, so what? She said, thank you, didn't belittle the present, and moved on with celebrating the rest of Christmas. She can appreciate the thought while not appreciating the gift. After all, it's the thought that counts, and she did say thank you, which implies she is thankful you thought to get her something. Edit I did a dumb typo and fixed it, wrote boyfriend instead of husband. Not the butthole, although I agree with you, this isn't a situation where you'll win or even look good. I'd have told your husband that he can take $250 out of his personal budget and get her gifts from now on, or she'll continue to get what you can afford. You are not required to please her. Would I be the butthole for comparing $7,000 Christmas gift to $5 Christmas gift? As a Christmas present, I, 52 male, took my partner, 39 female, to an 1-week all-inclusive vacation to Cancun, Mexico. We stayed at a 5-star luxury resort and I paid about $7,000 for everything. To be fair, my partner's portion would be valued about $3,500 and not $7,000, which was for 2 people. Upon our return, my partner gave me my Christmas present and it was a $5 back scratcher. To be fair, I've been looking for a good back scratcher and my partner spent many days looking for this one, which works pretty well. But my friends and family have been very critical over the huge financial imbalance of our respective Christmas presents. To date, I have not defended my partner against this criticism since I have mixed feelings too. Yet I fully understand it's the thought that counts in the end. More context. My partner is mildly autistic and currently unemployed with limited savings, greater than $5,000. I took forced early retirement last year due to COVID hospitalization but have healthy savings, $1 million plus. We live together and I willingly pay 90% of our living costs. We are a happy couple overall. Edit, the entire vacation was my partner's idea. She chose the destination and resort, I did all the planning and bookings, the budget was mutually agreed. I would have been happy with a staycation myself. Not relevant. And aside from the airport cluster of K, we had a wonderful time together. Final edit, a hearty thank you for everyone who responded. I was quite surprised by the very polarized opinions here, but my takeaway is to better communicate expectations between partners. I love my new back scratcher, my partner is happy I love my new back scratcher, and perhaps in the end that is all that really matters. Happy New Year's everyone. If you look at the gift as a function of available assets, you actually spent less on your gift to your partner, 0.07% of your net worth versus 1% of hers. And if you factor in that half of those vacation costs were actually spent on yourself, it's even less, 0.035% versus 1%. If you have mixed feelings, I think it's important to sit down with your partner and articulate exactly what about the gift rubbed you wrong and what your expectations are for next time. Clearly time and care was put into it. It was a thoughtful thing you've been wanting. So are you expecting $50 in presents next year? 4 gifts? An equivalent tropical vacation? Seems like you need to spend some time defining your expectations. No buttholes here. You would be the butthole. Break up with her if you don't want to be with her, but if you know you are dating someone with no job and less than $5K to their name, how can you also expect them to match your $3.5K present budget? You would be the butthole. You knew when you spent $3,500 on her part of your joint holiday that there was no possibility of her reciprocating. Even if she had spent $50 or $100 on your gift, the imbalance would still be huge. Why then are you now butthurt that the only possible outcome of this situation was the outcome that happened? Why are you not similarly upset that you pay 90% of your joint living costs? If you choose to have a relationship with someone who is in a different life stage to you with significantly different financial resources, you have to accept all that comes with that. No buttholes here. You each spent what you could comfortably afford, which is what you need to tell people who are butting in on your gifting habits. If you're concerned about the spending imbalance, you need to meet your partner at her financial level for future gifts. Am I the butthole for telling my aunt she has no authority over me? So I, male, 18, came back home from college for the holidays. Yesterday, my parents hosted a family dinner with all my aunts, uncles, grandparents and cousins. So the issue started when dinner was served. I got my food and sat down at the table. The way the tables were laid out was that the table in the dining room was for the adults and the table in the kitchen was for the kids. I obviously sat at the adult table. Then, one of my aunts came up behind me and barked, "What do you think you're doing?" I responded, confused with eating my food. She then said, "You are not allowed to sit here. Get to the kids' table right now." I laughed at that and said, "I have just as much right of being here as you do. You have no authority over me. Stop trying to start drama and just sit down and eat your food." She then burst into a rant and I just rolled my eyes and ignored her and continued eating my food while talking to my parents and other relatives. After the dinner, my parents asked me to apologize. Apparently, she filled the aunts group chat with passive-aggressive remarks about me as well as calling me disrespectful and claiming I grew up with no discipline. I do not feel the need to apologize, but I will if I'm the butthole. Edit: I should probably clarify the sitting situation. I set the tables specifically so there was enough for all of the adults and all of the kids with seats to spare in case people decide to move around. Not the butthole. You're not 7, you should be sitting at the adults' table by now. If there was no room, she should have approached it politely. She must not actually see you as that much of a kid if she's able to jerk about you in a group chat. I've heard this before, except it was a 22-year-old female and the aunt wanted the female to basically look after the kids at the kids' table. Not the butthole. Tell your auntie to unwad her panties and tell your parents that they need to back you up instead of kowtowing to your entitled aunt. Am I the butthole for implying Mill won't pay for us to attend her destination wedding as some sort of manipulation? Mill is getting married tonight and my husband and I will not be attending because the price to do so is just outrageous. I know she thinks we hate her and that I don't want him to go, but that is pretty far from the truth. She is having a destination wedding in the Caribbean and it is nice, so everything is crazy expensive. We did look at accommodations near where the wedding will be, and it was just insane. I am 5 months pregnant and we are saving for the baby right now. I personally feel like holiday weddings and destination weddings are okay, if you are willing to accept a large number of guests won't be able to make it. If you can't accept that, don't have one, and she is having both. Anyway, the family has been passive-aggressive. Mill was encouraged not to give us anything when I have my baby shower if we can't be bothered to go to her wedding, among other jokes clearly painting us in the wrong. Mill's sister called this morning to yell at us. She said there was still time, Lamau with these cancellations. She said we were being petty by missing it. I finally lost it and told her that Mill is just a master manipulator. If she truly cared about having her son there, who is young and just getting established in life, she would offer to pay. If she can afford this wedding, she could afford that. I saw my husband's jaw drop, because it is a big thing in his family that you never ever ask for money, so I knew I had embarrassed him. Mill's sister called me trashy and hung up. My husband said she is going to tell everyone and they are going to talk crap, because I know how his family feels about anything which could be seen as entitlement with money. He says I took it too far and not going is enough. Not the butthole. I stopped at 5 months pregnant. You don't need to spend thousands just to be at her wedding. She choose to have it somewhere far away and can steam it for free. Not the butthole. All you did was tell the truth. Their hang-ups with talking honestly about money are their own. Your hubby needs some therapy. He's normalized a lot of abuse. Am I the butthole for not knowing my daughter's friend's stepmom and not letting her take her stepson from my house? My daughter is 10 and has been friends with Cal since kindergarten. He started spending time at my house when the kids were 7 and he's been a frequent visitor in our house ever since. I have only ever spoken to his dad. Cal told me his mom died when he was in kindergarten and I was under the impression it was still just the two of them. But a couple of days ago he was at our house again and a woman came to pick him up with a baby. Cal didn't want to go with her and she was saying she was his parent. He was screaming that she wasn't, so I told her she would need to let me call Cal's dad to confirm. She told me she had the right to take her son. I told her I needed to make sure. She started getting angry, especially when Cal walked away from her, and so I called his dad. He confirmed she was his wife. He told me it was okay and he understood. He ended up coming to pick him up since Cal didn't want to go with his stepmom. He seemed to understand at the door, but the next day I got calls from both of them saying I should not have refused to let her take him and that I made things worse with Cal, who felt he could act like she wasn't a person of authority in his life. I apologized and said that I had never known she was in his life, or that he had a sibling, and I wanted to be safe. She told me I should have taken her word for it and that I knew he had a mom. I mentioned he talked about his mom dying. They said it was no excuse. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Did he expect you to just hand his child off to the first stranger that came to your house, without telling you who they were and that the child was afraid of? How can he expect any other reaction from you than to call him to confirm? Not the butthole. How would they have felt if she wasn't his stepmom and you let him go? Better safe than sorry. Not the butthole. You didn't know the woman existed. How were you supposed to react? The kid didn't want to go. Again, how were you supposed to react? Clearly, this family has some issues and it pointing the finger at you. I would casually mention that I would rather apologize to you for creating confusion than explain to the police why I allowed a stranger to take your child. Edit spelling. Am I the butthole for getting 2 of my neighbor's cars towed? I, 30 male, am an extremely introverted person. I also hate confrontations. I bought a house 4 months ago from my uncle. The house is in a nice neighborhood that has an HOA, but it is not part of the HOA. I don't want to be part of the HOA, and also my uncle only agreed to sell to me if I promised not to join. Another thing is that I am not a neighborly person. I am perfectly fine with keeping to myself, don't want to be invited to neighborhood events, won't go further than saying hello or dropping off a package that was mistakenly delivered to me. The first week I moved in, I already had the association inviting me to join, which I declined. Then I had people just dropping in to welcome me to the neighborhood. I was polite, but I made it known subtly that I was someone who liked to keep to himself. 10 days later the house across and next to me finally showed signs of life. They were away for vacation or something. Both of them had 2 cars and kids. The garages only can take 1 car, and their kids seemed to like to play in the driveway. So they just started parking in mine, without as much as a word to me. Like I said, I hate confrontation, and I read too many driveway/parking stories on many subs to be optimistic, so I just had a fence built around my front yard with a gate to the driveway. It is perfectly legal, just not up to HOA requirements, which don't apply to me. I had some complaints that I just ignored. Both neighbors were pissed off I didn't just talk with them. It was quiet for a few weeks, then I guess they wanted to be petty, so they parked on the street blocking my gate. I called a towing company straight away without giving them a warning. Now I am the neighborhood pariah, which I love actually, but I feel like I was the for doing so just after Christmas. So am I the butthole? Edit, forgot to add, there was plenty of street parking available, and their driveways were open too. They deliberately blocked my gate. Not the butthole. I think this is a FCK around and find out situation, and they found out. As one reclusive hermit, neighborhood pariah, wicked witch at the edge of the wood, to another I admire your quick success in reaching pariah status. Not the butthole, they're the and entitled at that. Don't worry about them and look into installing cameras to make sure they don't damage your property. Not the butthole, who parks on someone else's driveway without even asking. That's just inconsiderate. Am I the butthole for letting my fiancé upstage my ex? My 37 male, fiancé 24 female, had abusive parents and a terrible childhood. Her parents never really celebrated anything, including birthdays or Christmas. She went no contact with them at 18. She loves holidays, but after she went no contact she still couldn't celebrate anything because she had no one to celebrate with or any money. This Christmas I told her she is free to celebrate it the way she wants now. She went all out. She was especially excited about making it a magical Christmas for my sons, 9 male, and 7 male, and wanted to give them the Christmas she always wanted. She did everything you could think of, including buying whatever was in my son's Santa letter for them. One of them wanted a tablet and a guitar, the other one wanted an Xbox and a Lego set. My sons loved it. They never had a Christmas like this. My fiancée was even more excited than them. Next day my sons went to their mom's home. She called me and blew up at me saying I'm in butthole for letting my fiancé upstage her and buy her son's love. I tried to explain that she wasn't trying to buy anyone's love and was just excited about her first actual Christmas, but she is still mad at me. So am I the butthole? No buttholes here. But I think when co-parenting it's important to communicate re-gifts, etc., in advance. If one parent is going to go above and beyond, that's fine, but give the other parent a heads up, make sure they don't have concerns about big gifts like a tablet. Kids' age could be a factor, for example. Communicating in advance can avoid the other person seeing things through a less favorable lens. Soft, you're the butthole, but not because of upstaging. You still have to parent with your ex, and it's important to have a set of shared values and goals towards raising the kids. Your fiancé made the holiday about her, and giving the kids exorbitant gifts is not a good precedent to set. On an unrelated note, your fiancé is very young, no judgment here, inexperienced, and has a lot of life trauma. I doubt she is well positioned to be a mom. If she's not in therapy for that trauma, it's worth exploring so she can get a handle on her past before it affects you and the kids. 1. Why is this the first time your children had an amazing Christmas? Would you not allow their mother to give that when you were a family? 2. How long have you been with your child bride? 13-year age difference, and she was a kid only 6 years ago. A kid with a lot of trauma, which makes me concerned that there may have been some grooming going on. 3. And again, asking the first question again, cause we all know your fiancé didn't pay for Christmas. Why did you not let mom do this when y'all were together? I'm going with you're the butthole for being a pervy old man and being engaged to a kid with trauma and being on board with doing everything you can to make your children's mom look bad. Everybody sucks here. I get that your fiancé was excited, but if it was gifts from a Santa letter, then there should have been a discussion had with your ex, their mom. You all should have communicated better. Am I the butthole for storming out after we missed New Year's Eve because my dad wouldn't change the channel? I, 20s, was with my dad, mom, 50s, and sister, 20s, on New Year's Eve. As she usually does, my mom brought snacks for us to eat while we watched the countdown to midnight on television. When he saw the snacks, my dad said that he was planning on watching the Peach Bowl, an American football game happening that night. My mom asked if the game would go until midnight, and my dad said he hoped not, but that he'd want to watch the game. As it turned out, the game did go long. My mom, sister, and I eventually made our way to the television starting around an hour before midnight, but none of us cared about the game that was on. We were all on our phones and eating snacks while we waited. As midnight approached, so did the final moments of the extremely close game. All of us asked my dad to change the channel briefly so we could watch the countdown, but he refused, saying he wanted to watch the end of the game. He had the remote. We missed it. I was mad because the only reason I had come at all was to celebrate the start of 2023 at midnight with my family, but I'd missed it. So I said Happy New Year nonchalantly and left. My mom and sister were mad too, and left him there with the mess of snacks. My dad thinks we all were super rude and insensitive since he had said in advance that he wanted to watch the game, and we knew how important it was to him. Am I the butthole for storming out when he refused to change the channel? Not the butthole. Your dad basically told you and the rest of his family to take a back seat to some sportball bullcrap. He's the only one who wanted to watch it. He can find another screen to put it on. Not the butthole. Your dad needs to learn to sacrifice a bit for the majority. That's what happens when you choose to have a family. Am I the butthole for not apologizing to my MIL for leaving my house with my son to see family for an hour? So my 33 female, MIL, 70 female, is staying with us from Europe. We live on West Coast USA where we have to drive up get anywhere. She doesn't drive here due she's dependent on us. I try to accommodate her and ask her to go with me 90% of places. We take her out and even asked her if she wanted us to drop her off somewhere and pick up later, which she took as we are trying to tell her to leave the house for a few hours. I really try to be nice. But she's staying for a month and a half and I am not perfect. So today, I have a brother who lives nearby and my sister was passing by. We went out to breakfast and I took my son with me. My husband was taking a nap since our son, 1 year old, is having sleeping issues and we are exhausted to say the least. Also, I got my period this morning and I have bad PMS. I work, take care of my son, breastfeed and try to have some fun. Life is hard. When I came home my husband told me my MIL is triggered that I left with my son without telling her exactly where I was going. When I was coming back, she claims that since she doesn't have a car it's not good to just leave. Also, she wasn't sure if I was going to make lunch. I tried to explain to her that I'll be out for a few hours at my brother's, but we don't speak the same language, but I try to learn and do speak a bit. My husband is just napping upstairs and will be awake less than an hour after I leave. Then she said she is triggered with my entire character. That I get mad at my parents, none of her business. I have a very turbulent relationship and it's something I am struggling with and I don't need judgment. Also, I got mad at my husband a few times. How dare I get angry at her son, right? I have mood swings. I think she is not happy that I'm not more submissive, which I'm really not. He'll also add that I'm Middle Eastern origin and she's very xenophobic from a small European village. Frankly, I broke down when he told me because I don't need another older woman who constantly judges my mothering, judge my personality. I'm so tired and I am struggling as a new mother, no support whatsoever and no money for child care. My husband wants me to apologize to her for leaving with little explanation. I don't want to. Am I the butthole? Tell him next time, you will wake him up and he can f***ing tell her. Not the butthole. Nip this in the bud now, not later. You are a grown-up and you don't have to tell her your whereabouts. Tell your husband to put her in her place or you'll do it. You are not her babysitter and you will not allow her to judge you in your home. You may have a language/culture barrier, but that doesn't mean you cow down to her. She needs to know she isn't leading your household, you and your husband are. Tell hubby to be supportive of you in dealing with her. Am I the butthole for not telling anyone I was moving back to Korea? Alright, so I had lived in the US since I was 12 after my family left South Korea for better opportunities in the West. I can't complain about my time in the US as it was fun while I lived there. I got a wonderful boyfriend and I managed to get an associate degree in social work, which might not have happened if I wasn't in Korea. Well, last year my grandmother, who had decided to stay in Korea and take care of the farm she had started, broke her hip and couldn't take care of it effectively anymore, and she had discussed this with my entire family. My family discussed this at first without her and came to the conclusion that it would be best for her sell and move to the US to live with one of them as she is fairly old. My grandmother didn't like the idea and asked if there was any other way. They told her no, as, in their words, we all have lives that we can't uproot here. After I found out about this discussion I was furious because it was obvious my grandmother didn't want to leave. So after that I basically ghosted my family and made the spontaneous decision to move back to Korea and take care of my grandmother and the farm. My grandmother was surprised and shocked that I had done so, but was also happy. After I got settled and everything, I called my parents and informed them that there would be no need to have her move to the US as I was there to take care of everything. They were angry at me because they had bought the plane ticket for her to come to the US in February. I told them that I didn't care because she only was going to be leaving reluctantly. My father told me that I threw my life and promising future away and that I was in butthole for it. I'm now curious because I basically did give up everything to move back to my small village to take care of my grandmother and didn't tell anyone that I was doing it, even though I knew that my family was planning on moving my grandmother to the US. So am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Why, you are so generous. Taking care of anyone is hard, but moving across the world to do it, that's amazing. Your family should be proud of you. Obviously none of them wanted to move. You let them know where you went. I think that's enough. It sounds like you are still young. There's a lot of time for you to make lifelong decisions on whether you want to stay in Korea or move back to the US later. Be proud of yourself and your decisions. Not the butthole. Good on you for doing that. I don't know if it's a smart decision, but it sure is a kind one. The US will always be there if you want to go back. But for now, enjoy rebuilding your life. Only person I feel bad for is your boyfriend. I know you didn't talk to your family, but I hope you at least said goodbye to him. Am I the butthole for not giving a stranger a ride home? I, 15 female, have a group of friends that like to go to dances together. Our parents carpool us because none of us can drive yet. We've been to several dances and have so far had a great time. A New Year's dance came up, and all my friends wanted to go, but the parents were struggling to figure out the carpool situation. My dad volunteered to drive everyone home after, even though it would be running until 12:30 in the morning and he had to get up early in the morning. Our car has just enough seats for all of us, but we do also have a bigger car with more seating. My dad was going to bring the smaller car. We go to the dance and are there for only half an hour when a girl comes up to us and asks if she can hang out with us to avoid her friend because he is making her uncomfortable. We accept and are very friendly to her because this guy is trying to get us away from her and we realize he is a creep. Anyway, the girl brings up the fact that her only ride home is with creepy guy, and immediately all of my friends are concerned, asking her questions about how far she lives and if her parents can come pick her up, etc. She says her mom cannot get her and she really hates the idea of riding home with this guy. She is very dramatic and asks us if we would be willing to give her a ride. All my friends are bugging me about it, telling me to just let my dad drive her. I refuse because I don't want my dad to have to drive any more than needed, and this girl is a stranger. I'm not going to bring her with me. My friends are begging at this point, wondering why I don't want to, and I'm very frustrated. They tell me to just ask my dad to bring the bigger car. It's not hard to do. They say she only lives 30 minutes away and if I cared enough I would drive that far. I tell them that a 30-minute drive is an hour both ways and that is too much for me to ask. My friend tells me that she wouldn't mind staying up an extra hour to help someone in need, and I'm mad. I do text my dad, but he doesn't respond in time, thankfully, and the girl is forced to ride with her creepy friend. I feel bad for her, and don't want her to be in that situation, but she can't expect me to go out of my way for her. My friends were upset with me, but I noticed none of them asked their own parents to wake up, get ready to drive over an hour, 2 hours if they take all of us, and bring a stranger into their car, just because they couldn't get a ride from their mom. I found it hard to care much about what this girl said afterward. Why should I care so much about her situation? The back and forth carpool is a lot, taking an hour normally, and I didn't feel like I needed to force my dad to go out of his way. But perhaps I should have tried harder to be accommodating to her situation. Not the butthole. Would normally be leaning towards NAH, but as you pointed out, none of your friends were very eager to inconvenience themselves or their parents to help out this person. It's very noble and understandable to want to help out someone in need, especially when it's a matter of helping someone avoid a blatant creep, but you can't make commitments on behalf of other people, and your friends shouldn't have pressured you into trying to do so. All the people in this scenario are minors. Talk with the adult chaperones at the venue, who might have suggestions, like call home, or set her up with Lyft/Uber, or a ride home from law enforcement if the date was really creepy. There might be some level of liability on dad's part if he took stranger girl off site. It's on the responsible adults at the venue to see that everyone gets out the door safely, even if that means waiting an extra hour for a parent to arrive.